Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to take a look at Mercury's conjunction with Neptune. Now, this is coming off a pretty busy week so far. We started looking at Mercury conjoined with Jupiter at the beginning of the week. We went into Mars' square to Uranus, which is still active, and now we're talking about Mercury's conjunction with Neptune. Today I'm going to tell you 10 stories that I've heard repeatedly in Mercury-Neptune aspects, either in natal charts or by transit. So let's start by putting up the real-time clock. And here is Mercury in its fall and detriment conjoined with Neptune and Pisces as Jupiter's also coming through. So the first thing that I want to say is that you've probably been feeling this transit since the beginning of the week. And for more thoughts on this transit, you could very well revisit my Mercury conjunct Jupiter video that was at the beginning of this week. Now, that being said, Mercury Neptune is a little different, so I'm going to be telling a kind of different story today overall, and I'm not going to be focused so much on the dignity of Mercury, which I did at the start of the week. Okay, so here are 10 stories or themes that I have heard more times than I can count when Mercury and Jupiter, or Mercury and Neptune, excuse me, are conjoined, square, opposed, really any kind of configuration. But these are very common stories, some variation of these stories. So I hope you'll find this entertaining. All right, you would not believe how many times, number one, that I have heard Mercury conjoin, square, oppose Neptune when people suddenly talk to dead people. Could be in a dream, a state of clairvoyance, intuition, or something. But I have heard more times than I can count Mercury, Neptune being about communication from beyond. Spirits, ghosts in the house, dead ancestors, whatever. It's incredible to me, to the point where, the few times I'm like, someone tells me that, and my cynical nature is like, yeah, it's Mercury conjoined Neptune. I'm probably talking to a crazy person. I'm kidding, but so you think that, and you go like, yeah, I don't know, maybe they're out to lunch, maybe they're Mercury Neptune is sometimes known for fuzzy boundaries and mental health problems. So like maybe not. But no, I've heard this so many times that I have to take it seriously, that there is some valid form of communication from beyond, psychic spirits, ancestors, some form of psychic connectivity or something like that that seems to step up under Mercury Neptune transits. I am not encouraging you to go out and pick up the call the dead telephone or anything. I'm just saying if it happens, I wouldn't be surprised, and I do think there's something to it. The second one, and these are in no order, but the second one I wrote down is emotional breakthroughs. Mercury is, for example, you'll often see Mercury present in talk therapy and analysis. Mercury Neptune, will often coincide with moments where a person has a profound sort of emotional revelation, an emotional breakthrough, crying, deep, deep tears, releasing. So any kind of emotional or mental health, like a moment of mental clearing or cleansing or something like that. Now, breakthrough or breakdown, I added this on the same one. So sometimes you will also see people lose some groundedness in terms of their mind or their emotional health. And that's also very common with Mercury Neptune. All right, number three, I have often seen a sudden large scale understanding or comprehension of something. It could be a problem, it could be a subject, it could be reality itself. Although a little bit more skeptical about that one, but this idea of having suddenly grasping something that is very hard to grasp or normally would almost be beyond our ability to talk about. Very common with Mercury Neptune. Number four, fluid transmissions of art, music, writing, almost like a stream of consciousness that pours through. Very, very common. Number five, I said this a little bit with emotional breakdowns, but a totally delusional idea taking hold very strongly. Like people can become very deluded by very particular ideas that they become almost obsessive about consumed by, overwhelmed by. Overwhelm is a good word for Mercury, Neptune, of the mind. So sometimes that means an idea that's taking hold that's maybe completely delusional. And it could be relatively harmless or very harmful, but it's an idea that's not necessarily grounded in truth, becoming pervasive or sort of all-encompassing or something. 6, anything to do with water or the topic of water and flooding or overwhelm or leaking or something around water coming up in a very big way. Oftentimes with a message attached or some symbolism. That's 6. Number 7, inappropriate boundaries, spying or secrets. There's something that can be sort of deceptive and secretive. Water signs were called mute signs in ancient astrology and had the connotation of being secretive. There is something about the lack of boundaries, the porousness, the gossip, or the potential for like inappropriate forms of communication or something like that. Or saying too much, almost like diarrhea of the mouth, just oversharing or something. Number 8 would be, and this kind of goes along with talking to dead people, psychic phenomenon. But by that, I mean like synchronicities, precognition, especially precognition, where you're like thinking of a person 5 minutes before they call. That stuff really seems to step up around Mercury, Neptune contacts. That's 8. Number 9 would be aggrandized thoughts and feelings. It's not that they're inaccurate. It's that it's a true thought, but that it's being lifted up, making it more important than it actually is. So there's a difference between a delusional thought and a true thought that's being like aggrandized. So for example, you could come to realize something and almost get high on the realization, in which case you're distorting how true something is. It's a subtle distinction, but it is an important one that often goes along with Mercury, Neptune. Could be a feeling, not a thought as well. Finally, I have found that there is an intense attraction to or a heightened effectiveness of altered states, especially things like meditation and prayer. Sometimes it's altered states through drugs, but there's a draw to these states and they seem to be louder, the channels more open. I personally think Mercury, Neptune is a very interesting time during which to meditate, but I meditate every day. So I see, I meditate through a lot of transits, but I have noticed that there's almost more like you've got God's pager or something. Wouldn't that be great if God had a pager? 911. I have something really important to say. Okay. So anyway, those are my sort of 10 thoughts about Mercury, Neptune, things that I've seen so frequently over and over again. Hopefully in hearing those stories, more than receiving any instruction about what to do, you have a sense of what to expect. And to me, it's just like I was saying this week about welcoming the gods into our lives, being very careful with how we present ourselves to them. Keeping all of this in mind can help us stay just spiritually sober, which does not mean closed-minded, grounded, earthy, practical, and dismissing of the magic or imagination or subtlety, but it means that we're staying aware. And if you keep aware during such a transit, I think that it stands to be a lot more magical and a lot more insightful than just getting lost in it. That's always the case with the planets. So that's what I've got for today. I hope this was interesting. If you have any Mercury, Neptune stories, this is a great week for storytelling. So use the hashtag grabbed, put in Mercury, Neptune, tell us your story. If you prefer to email it, you can send it to us, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. That's what I have for today. I hope you guys are having a great week. We'll talk again soon. Bye.